got to bring it back to the pH in living soil. This is
Yeah.
definitely a hot topic here. So,
Uh,
just for clarification purposes, number one, don't use citric acid. I'm assuming you shouldn't use phosphoric acid either to lower the pH. If a grower has water source that is high pH, let's say it's over 8.0, or maybe even over 9.0 pH, you're saying in a living, if you're putting that into a living soil system, you should not adjust it first to get lower. You should just add that into your system. And then what will adjust? Is it the microbes that adjust it? Is it the plant releasing acids? Is it a combination of both?
yeah, and I can already feel if this was a live chat, this shit would be blowing up right now. But so I'm going to preface this with, I came up through the ranks of Southern California, and I was completely surrounded by very accomplished hydroponic growers. So I fully understand the synthetic world. Some of the guys that I came up with through the ranks went on to be some of the most influential people in the entire industry. So I think a lot of times people think I just popped out of a soil food web school and started telling people what to do. But I had a lot of time with very successful in the prime of the Prop 215 era. I got to see some very successful hydroponics. So I fully understand that world. And then I learned living soil because of the results, and it helps us navigate the regulated world. So having said all that, if you're talking about a hydroponic solution where your root ball may be this small, right? You could have a 6x6 Rockwool cube. Any minor fluctuation in pH can be catastrophic, right? That's everybody on the show that's still listening after this point agrees. I'd be interested in the analytics from this point. Everybody just boots off. So let me know after. But basically, for those that are still listening, everybody can agree on that, right? Now you're talking about a soil bed that could be 3 or 4 feet wide, could be 2 feet deep. It is hundreds of times larger in its buffering capacity of the liquid solution that you add into that. So 2 completely different worlds in different contexts. Now, as far as modulating pH, my first question is, what's in that water? And this is what almost all of the grow community doesn't look at. So they look at pH. I look at the part per million composition of that water. Like, if you make up a feed, we send it into analysis. If you pH up, it's potassium hydroxide. If you pH down, it's phosphoric acid. When you're pHing up, you're adding potassium, you're changing the ratios in the recipe. If you're adding phosphoric acid, you're adding phosphorus, and you're changing ratios in the recipe. So I put a much higher hierarchy, I guess, I don't know what the word would be, on what is the mineral composition of that water, and I put pH maybe 3rd or 4th. It's not number 1. And that mostly I've been analyzing fertilization of hydroponic since 2014, basically. So I got 12 years of, large scale analysis. And so many times in my career, someone will hit a perfect pH, but the composition of that fertilization is dysfunctional as you can imagine, but it's a perfect pH, right? So I think we need to broaden our horizon on what the actual target is. But again, for the home grower, the pH pen is what you have access to. So unless you're sending that off to lab to analyze, you're not going to even understand what I'm saying. So having said all that, in the living soil world, the mineral composition of that water is far more important than the pH numerical target because of the buffering capacity of these massive containers. So I'm not saying pH doesn't matter, but what I'm saying is you can achieve perfectly fine results with, like, we have a project right now. Their water comes out of the well at 8.4, but it's almost RO from like a ppm concentration of what's in the water. And it's because it has 15 parts per million of sodium. So like it has like 28 parts per million of whatever, but like 2/3 of that is sodium. So it's dominating the alkalinity of that water. And so that means nothing to a living soil system. Now, as soon as you start putting phosphoric acid into a high organic matter soil, your time is limited. You will run into fusarium. You will destroy that soil, and you will be throwing it away. That's not an option in living soils getting kind of merged together. If you add packaged bacteria to a cocoa drain to waste, that's called living soil. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about high organic matter permanent soils, right? So inside that world, anything you put in there to modulate pH is either going to be destructive or it's going to be a food resource. And if the food resource is too large, it's going to be destructive. So the way that we do modulate pH when we need to is by using something like fulvic acid, because that's a beneficial stimulant to biology that's also acidic. So, but there's a limit to that. So you can't just infinitely add fulvic acid to modulate to a desirable pH, because you're adding a food source to that system, which ultimately lends you at powdery mildew. And we could take an hour to explain all that. But basically, as you're adding food resources, you're stimulating it either in a positive or a negative way. And the limit from positive to negative is a very narrow window. So the way that we handle fertilization is, if you take a water and you have the perfect balance of calcium, magnesium, potassium, phosphorus, nitrogen, the pH comes out fairly close to what people would agree is a desirable target. So when I've done my job blending the fertilizers and nutrients in our solutions, the pH comes out around 6.2, 6.4, sometimes 6.6. And that garners industry-leading results for sure. So again, that comes back to that mindset of, are we doing hydroponics in a high organic matter soil, or are we working with a living soil system? And most people, honestly, they struggle with that mindset shift. So they will set up a living soil bed. They'll do one run. The quality will be phenomenal. The yield maybe is a little bit lower than they'd want. They start tinkering and it just crashes into the wall in a ball of fire, and they throw it away and they go back to hydro. And it's because of this dynamic of, you're doing animal husbandry. You're growing microscopic cows and ducks and cats, and you're either building them up strong or you're giving them fusarium,
This clip is brought to you by VivoSun. Use discount code MrGrow15 to save on any of their gardening products. Go to the full episode by clicking the outro card here, or click the link in the description section below. Catch you in the next video.